Welcome to another episode of NextGenDDS. This is one of your hosts, Mario Santiago, and with me I have Dr. Scott Menick. Scott, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Mario. Good to see you as always. These are lots of fun as we explore all kinds of topics that are incredibly relevant to our young audience.
Yeah,
It's not just it's especially relevant to our young audience, but it'll be relevant throughout your career.
absolutely. And if you haven't joined us before, what Scott and I are really trying to do is get a lot of information out there to students, residents, people who have just started their careers on really the financial side of being a dentist or being a dental specialist, whether it is, tax planning, financial planning, transitions,
And
becoming
lots,
a
yeah, and
partner.
lots of episodes outside of the financial piece that all goes into how do you try and put this new career in place. So
Yeah.
it's been good. So we were talking last time a little bit about kind of planning first, buying second, and that goes to the next. Today, what we're going to really talk about is cash flow.
Yep.
You guys are probably the masters of cash flow projections as you're helping, established doctors, sometimes younger, but throughout their career of doing cash flow projections so they know kind of how to plan their one when they retire. I'll let you kind of take it
Yeah,
from here in terms of
it
that, and
sounds
then we'll go back to
yeah,
kind of my side from the cash flow.
perfect. No, it sounds so simple, Scott, but we just let the numbers tell us the answer, right? You said before you got to plan first, buy second, and a lot of people go into situations just with a gut feeling of, oh, this is going to be good for me, or my friend can afford this house, so I should be able to afford this house. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to cash flow. And from our end, it's fun. It's a puzzle, right? So if the cash flow isn't there, we just need to figure out how do we get the cash flow to be there, and really get it so you can be successful. And we were talking before, Scott. I know people are in the field because they love dentistry and this and that, but at the end of the day, everybody wants to get paid, right?
That's why we work.
Yeah. So I don't.
Yep, that's
I never like to sound like, oh, profits over everything, but everybody's looking to increase their income to increase their lifestyle or increase what they can do.
right. It's interesting as I talk to a lot of young dentists looking to buy practices and buy in. One of the questions I always ask is, so how much student debt do you have? I said, listen, because that's part of that's part of the world today.
Yeah.
And the numbers that I get, I've got one doctor, he's looking to buy into an ortho practice, big ortho practice, going to borrow a lot of money, and he's got $700,000 in student debt on top of what he's going to borrow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from a cash flow standpoint, we'll talk about that a little more in a minute. On the banks are happy to lend him money
Yeah.
because it cash flows. We're trying to help them from a standpoint of what does this look like, from them. But to your point earlier, you're working. You've invested an incredible amount of time and effort into this, and we're working to offer a great service that's going to be fun. I did it for 38 years, a tremendous career, but I was also invested a tremendous amount of time and effort into it, and I wanted to get paid for it too.
Yeah.
So don't be ashamed of that.
Of course.
Nobody's going to pay you $1 billion. You're not going to make billions doing this, but you should do well to make sure that it cash flows. I was thinking back, Mario, to the cash flow piece. I had been. We talked a little bit about my initial experience, good and bad associateships. I was at a terrible partnership. Almost thought about getting out of dentistry. It was so bad at that point. And my partner had said to me, with the practice, he was leaving. He had some personal circumstances and needed to leave. But it was too big for me, and that I couldn't do it. Even though I'd been a junior partner for a couple of years, I couldn't do it. And they were going to sell it to somebody else. And we couldn't find a buyer. And fortunately, we couldn't find a buyer because I have a twin brother. Steve is a CPA, and I did exactly what we talked about. I said, Steve, can you do a cash flow projections for me that says, if I borrow this money to buy the practice, and I make what I'm making today, can I pay the bank what they need to do so that I can buy the practice?
Yep.
Even though everybody's telling me no, can I do it?
Yep.
And so he went and he got the P&Ls and the tax, and he spent some time and he created a cash flow projections, and he said, you can do it.
That's all you need.
And the rest was history.
Yep.
And because I was willing to say the money that I was making, it wasn't a lot as a partner, but because I was just getting going, I could do it. I could do it. And I bought him out. Instead of paying the bank off over 12 years, I paid him off in 5 years. And grew the practice and grew it and grew it.
That's what you need to do.
And do it. So cash flow projection was the saving grace for me.
Scott, I had a funny one. This doctor, everything was going well. They had a practice. The practice was doing really well. They were doing a lot of the tax strategies we'd recommended. But he wanted to come back in for consulting just to figure out whether he could buy a $2.5 million house. And right off the bat, you might say, it's an expensive house. We sure just ran the numbers. And ran the numbers sounds simple, right? Or cash flow sounds simple, Scott. But really what we do is, okay, what's the practice income? Let's say we got to back out debt. We got to back out what we call doctor perks that people are running through the practice. Got to back out family salaries. Then we got to calculate the federal and state taxes, payroll taxes. We have to calculate, any real estate cash flow that's coming in and out, any personal debt. And then the number that we have left over, we need to back into, okay, when do you want to retire? If you want to retire, let's say at 60, okay, we need to back into the number that you need to save every year for the next, 15 to 20 years to make it by then. And if that last number that I just came out to in my cash flow analysis isn't lining up with what you need to retire, then that tells me the answer that I need to know. So we did that with this doctor. And guess what? We told him to go buy the $2.5 million house. Those numbers made sense with the timeline.
That's right.
So, like I said, we're not going to tell everyone no, right? If it makes sense,
you want to tell them yes, right?
Yeah, that's like the most rewarding thing for me, to be able to tell someone that they can actually get the house and they can actually do the remodel. But I've done the opposite, Scott, where somebody's like, I want to upgrade my house, or I want to do a $500,000 renovation at the house, and I have to run the numbers and say, look, you can do this, but it means you're going to work for an extra 5 to 10 years. How does that sound to you?
Or you're going to have to give up something else that you're doing.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So
and because there's a limited bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody's got their hand in that bucket's going to be empty at some point when you go back to look for it. And we find, you find that, I'm sure, a lot. I recently was getting ready to complete a partnership for a doctor, and I actually introduced him to Mario yesterday because he just seems he's getting ready to become a partner in this practice. He's going to have some great opportunities. He's got a wife and a couple kids, and he wants to start taking advantage of that ownership thing. Mm-hmm. And I said, now listen, this is not my specialty, but Mario's going to help you understand that question of how can I start to take advantage of this ownership from a cash flow standpoint too. It's not just, hey, listen, we're going to set up all these different accounts and we're going to hire your wife and we're going to do all these things. And then all of a sudden he's going, I can't pay my bills.
Yeah, where's the money?
Yeah.
No, and that's another good one that you mentioned, Scott, because let's say you have a situation where you're not making the money you want to make, or you're not cash flowing like you want to. So that's where we look at a lot of different situations and we say, I just had one recently where somebody was grossly overpaying for their life and disability insurance. So we cut down the premiums and we saved some cash there. We refinanced the practice debt. So we lowered the monthly payment and are saving in interest over time. We increased the tax perks. So now we're actually getting to lower the tax bill and increase cash flow personally. Okay, now we have this extra cash flow, and now we can, either save more, spend more. You can have those kind of options if you are looking at the cash flow like a puzzle.
Right. And so the big takeaway I'll take from what you just said is there's lots of great things, lots of great information that you get from those cash flow projections. And you're updating them often. Mm-hmm. It maybe not every year, but certainly every couple of years, maybe sometimes every year, just depends on what people are doing. But you want to keep doing that constant planning and understanding what it means, because when you make more money, you spend more money, right?
Yep.
And it could be nicer vacations and nicer dinners and nicer cars and nicer houses, and all of that starts to cost money. And
And life changes, I'm guessing, Scott. I'm guessing
It
your
does.
practice didn't do the exact same
No,
every year.
never,
And
never.
your personal life,
You know,
one year might have been more expensive than the
yeah,
other.
for sure. And, and then there's circumstances certainly that change things, from kids and divorce, and there's all those things that go into that. So, from your side, from the business and tax planning side, cash flow projections are crucial to understanding and planning how your life is going to go, and so that it meets your expectations and your plans. Now, you want to work till you're 80? We don't advise it, but
Yeah.
you could do that. But if you want, we want you to have the ability to control you want to control your environment.
Yeah.
You don't want to be at the behest of the IRS, the bank, mortgage, where you're
You're the last one getting paid.
Yeah. We always say pay yourself first, but sometimes when you pay yourself first, if you've overextended yourself, you don't have a whole lot in your pot. So,
Well, Scott, I know you said too, I like your line of, just because it cash flows doesn't mean it makes sense. And
Yep.
I think a lot of people, they do kind of an internal cash flow, and they say, look, I can afford this house, or I can afford this car, or I can afford to do this, I can afford to do that. It's like, look, I think that's a huge problem outside of dentistry in general. People get things because technically their paycheck supports it. The problem is when you look 10 years down the road and you realize that you haven't really been saving what you should for kids' education, retirement, personal goals. Well, now when I tell someone that, hey, you really need to save $20,000 more into retirement, they look around and they say, from where?
Where? Right.
Because, I'm making X a month and I'm spending the exact same amount because I can cash flow it. Yeah, I can afford that house and that Range Rover and this and that. But it's like, well, what's your version of affording it? Is it just, 10,000 comes in, 10,000 goes out? Or should it really be 10,000 comes in and, 3,000 gets saved and 7,000 goes out? So just because you can cash flow, it doesn't really mean it's the right financial decision.
Right. And so, so that kind of goes back, we're swinging it back to what I do in representing doctors, either looking to buy a practice or become a partner. That's the first thing that I want to look at. We'll create a pro forma if you're buying a practice. Pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to plug and play some numbers, and we're going to get a pretty good idea of, hey, listen, before taxes, here's what you're going to make. After we start taking all the deductions on a 10-year note and what you get to write off immediately, and it's pretty complex. And so you want to have somebody who can help you understand that. But here's what you're going to make. And this is, and after taxes, after all is said and done,
service.
And after debt service, here's where you're going to be. It's a different number. Now, banks are trying pretty hard. Banks have one goal in mind when they loan you money. Are they going to get paid? Mm-hmm. They're going to look at your personal debt. They're going to look at your living expenses to a degree. But after that, they're gone, right? And you've got a $1 million loan, let's call it. You're doing it over 10 years. You've got probably $130,000 of debt service between interest and principal. Mm-hmm. You're going to write some of that off, but that's money that's completely off the top. Mm-hmm. And you need to understand what that's going to do to your practice. Now, I had brokers at times on the other side say, I said, have you got a projection for my buyer? They go, no, the bank's going to do that. Do you think the bank's going to do that? They're going to do it a little bit. But at the end of the day, they're not, and I'll hear brokers say, well, it cash flows. I go, well, that doesn't mean you're going to go buy a practice with 80% overhead just because it cash flows, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where I really start breaking the numbers down. Am I okay with a practice like in the earlier episode we were talking about? There's a growth opportunity for this doctor. Circumstances are really kind of unique. This practice with an 80% overhead, I think they're going to make it just go out the roof in a year. There's just circumstances there that make it work.
Yeah.
In a big city, an 80% overhead, there's probably a lot of less growth opportunity. It makes absolutely no sense. You want to run for the hills.
Mm-hmm.
And doctors always think it's worth way more than it is.
Yep.
In this case, this doctor, this practice had 700,000 in collections. My calculation said it was probably worth about 350. They got a broker to say it was worth 485. I still think it's way overvalued, but I think we're going to pay probably somewhere in the middle because I think the opportunity is just, this guy's not diagnosing anything. He's really just trying to make sure his patients aren't in pain. He's doing fillings, a few crowns here or there.
Mm-hmm.
He's just trying to get out.
Yeah.
And so there's an amazing opportunity there. But you've got to look at the circumstances. And so to our point, cash flow, because it cash flows, doesn't mean you should buy it.
I heard something from another doc the other day, Scott, that I hope I don't get to hear that often, but they bought a practice. They bought it, I think they bought it for 85% of collections, but because they thought that was the industry standard. They said, since that's the industry standard nowadays, I bought it for 85% of collections. That practice was not worth 85% of collections.
Wrong.
It was worth way less.
Right.
So, and now they're making less money as an owner than they were as an associate.
Right.
Which
is the biggest red flag.
Yeah, it's like if you're buying any business outside of dentistry too, you're buying it because there's more income potential, right? So it's like if you went from making, $200,000 as an associate to making $150,000 as an owner after debt service, that was not a good business move.
Right.
Right? And this doctor
there might be circumstances, but
yeah, if it has a lot of growth potential,
it has a growth.
like yeah.
So I had a doc that bought a practice. He was making probably almost $350 as an associate in a big practice. He'd been out 5 years. He bought a practice doing $700,000 with like a 75% overhead. I said, listen, Doc, I said, you're gonna probably make about 150 to 175 this year.
Mm-hmm.
If you're good with that and you're ready for the change and everything, okay. But I'm just, and I said, and I knew there was a lot of opportunity. I said, yeah. I'm giving you worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Well, he made 350 the first year. It was that practice. He just got in, and this is a practice, 3 operatories.
Wow.
3 operatories max. He did $1 million the first year in, took it from probably a little under 700 to $1 million. And he's trying to figure out how we.
But I'm guessing he bought it at a
we got
price.
We got a very good price for it.
Right.
We didn't
that's
spend.
Different if you
he did not spend 85% of collections.
Yeah,
we
that's
probably got
if
it
you
for.
Overpaid for it.
We probably got it for 50% of collections.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe 55.
So that's fine, right? Because you paid what it was worth and then you grew it. But if you
overpay
for it and then you got to grow it too.
So the cash flow that I helped him with, he knew what it was going to be going in. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we're trying to do. But we say to docs, if you're taking a big pay cut to go buy a practice outright, it's probably not the right practice. Mm-hmm. Unless you're saying, hey, listen, I'm moving from a big town. I want to go back home to where I'm at with my wife and kids, and it's personal reasons. And I can do it, and the cost of living is going to be less and all that.
But I don't know. If I were you, it's like if you're telling me that I can make more as an associate without the headaches of ownership, I'd probably just be an associate.
And I say that to Doug. I had a client, I was helping him look at this practice, and the brokers were saying it cash flows, and I go, but my clients, and this is one of those dual representation ones. We always again say, we'll repeat this ad nauseum, never buy into the dual representation. The owners, they're working for the owner, but they say they're going to represent you. I said to this group, hey, listen, who's going to do who's doing the cash flow and the pro forma for him? And they go, the bank. The bank isn't doing that. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, Doc, you're gonna take a pay cut from 350 to about 225. And he said, I like what I'm doing enough. I'm not doing that. I said, great, let's look for the next opportunity. Now, he's doing really well when you're highly compensated as an associate, that 350, 400 range, you might have to take a little step back.
Yes.
If you're making 150 to 200, you shouldn't really take a step back. So there's, again, cash
Every
flow
situation's
projections,
different.
right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that on and on. So, you could even say when you're buying a piece of equipment, what's this cash flow going to be? I'm going to have a $5,000 a month debt payment. How am I going to make that back?
Mm-hmm.
I better be not just doing what I'm doing, I better be doing more.
Yeah.
And those are the things. So we talk about, cash flow is crucial, but it doesn't really answer the question. Plan first, make sure that you understand what it's going to do. Have a cash flow projection that says this is what it's going to do and this is how it's going to affect things. Because I'm sure, Mario, you get guys, doctors who go, I want to build a new office, right?
Oh my gosh. That can work, Scott, but like you said, I've seen it not work.
Right.
You're under, just because you own, I mean, that's another, but like just because you own your building doesn't mean it makes sense either. You build out a 10 op practice and you only work out of 5 chairs for the next 15 years. You're not going to make your money on that.
Nope, you're not. Again, plan for it, understand what it's going to do and how you're going to do it. I had an office that was built in 1970. It's been upgraded. It looks really new. But, I said, I'd love to go build out a brand new office. Mm-hmm. But I've managed in that to upfit it and upgrade it and not incur probably $1.5 million expense.
Yeah.
Without it. So there's just lots of things that we'll do. From my end, I like to understand what the cash flow means and what it's going to look like. From your end, you're getting docs from that first year or 2 year on, and you're working with them throughout their career, doing their financial planning and doing those things to help them make smart decisions. And that's really what we're trying to tell you to do is you need to go hire people to help you make those smart decisions, things you just don't know nothing about. We've been through it. We'll tell people, we have the courage to say, even if you don't hire us, make sure you're hiring smart people who understand the business. We think we're the best. We've been doing this for a long time. We have a track record that proves that, but our company has been built around always doing what's best for our clients and giving them that guidance and advice. Yeah. So we'd say to you, make a good plan, spend time with people who understand what the cash flow means and how that's going to affect your life, and then you'll be set up to make good decisions.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. And if you like what you're hearing, make sure to sign up for the McGill Line newsletter. Free for residents and students while they're in school, up to 2 years after school.
Yeah, and 2 years after. And it's one of the things I said, as I lecture to dental students and I'm in the young dental groups, I said, you're going to get one thing out of probably every newsletter. I know I did, that I could implement or go, it's going to make me think about things differently. So this is all the same stuff. There's lots of great resources behind it. So take advantage of that, especially if you're in school or a resident. Please sign up for that newsletter.
Yeah. All right, Scott.
So good. Thanks, Mario. Another fun topic, and we can't wait for the next one.
All right.